Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Newman. I'm the Managing Director of the BBIA. And welcome to this webinar, which for once, happily, is not going to talk about bioplastics. We have a great panel of speakers who are going to be talking about innovative biomaterials, how they are used in various different environments. And this meeting is going to be chaired by our old friend and BBIA ambassador, Iris Aquilina, who many of you will know, and she will take over from me. Before she does, a couple of housekeeping rules. Firstly, you are all muted and your videos are off. If you do wish to ask a question to any of the speakers, please send those through the Q&A button, which you have at the bottom of your screen. I know you're all very expert on this, and Iris will pop a question or two to each of the speakers after they have finished. And then we will all be back when all the speakers have finished for a panel discussion, and we hope to be around about an hour doing all that. Before you ask, yes, there will be a video of this available from tomorrow. Yes, the presentations of the speakers will also be available and will be sent to all of you who are registered. So with no further ado, Iris, welcome, and I leave you to chair the meeting.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen, everyone.
I suggest to the other speakers that you turn your videos off,
right,
and and only the speaker has the video on. Okay, yeah. So we should see you, Iris, and your screen, and that's it.
Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Iris. Many people know me as Iris Anderson. I'm starting to use my maiden name again, Iris Aquilina Anderson. And I have been the BBIA ambassador since its start in 2015. A little bit about me. I have worked in the British Civil Service since 1984 and exited recently. I've worked at the Ministry of Agriculture, Department of Environment, Department of Energy, and done a lot of work on the bioeconomy. But I've also done a lot of work on diversity. There are lots of people working in the bioeconomy. I've set up a BioLadies network, and we've started being more inclusive and adding some young bio lads as well. And it's really important that the bioeconomy in its widest sense is known by everyone. The BioLadies is really an opportunity to interact and to share knowledge and professional contacts, but also to find out what's going on in each part of the bioeconomy. We'll be going through that in a minute. And it also, I know a lot of you will know the Sustainable Development Goals. Number 5 is gender equality. So I'm going to talk about the bioeconomy. What is the bioeconomy? The OECD defines it as a set of economic activities. The EU defines it more in a land and sea type way. The USA has an even wider definition, and the UK government has the narrowest definition and really focuses more on the bioscience side of it. The UKRI, which is the new UK research establishment body, and the BBRC is the one that's mainly concerned with the bioeconomy, gives funding for blue sky thinking and stuff like that for the bioeconomy. And they have even they have their own definition of the bioeconomy. So it's very hard for all of us to agree exactly, but in general, it's anything to do with bioeconomy can mean lots of things to lots of people, and it depends where you're coming from, how wide your definition is. So this is an EU little fact sheet on why we need the bioeconomy. The bioeconomy affects jobs, it affects climate change, it affects our industrial base, and it affects biodiversity. And on the slide, there's some information about which bits of the economy bioeconomy affects. So a lot of people now are adjusting their aims for their companies to the Sustainable Development Goals, which the UN have set out. And a body called BIC, which is based in Brussels, has done some new guidance for companies as to how to assess what your impact is from your bio-based projects on the Sustainable Development Goals. And they see on my slide there on the left-hand side that those specific SDGs are the ones that are most affected by what we do in the bioeconomy. I'm going to touch on what is the circular economy, because now obviously the bioeconomy has always been a circular economy, because we grow something, we make something out of it, and hopefully at the end of the life of that product, we reuse it or make it into compost, or we replant it and we start all over again. And although a lot of people think the circular economy is only about waste, it isn't about waste. It's about designing something so that at the end of its life, it can be maybe disassembled, reused, replanted. So it's really important to know that the circular economy and the bioeconomy really coincide. Indicators for the circular economy, there is a very interesting Eurostat information page, and they split the indicators into four, as it shows on this slide: waste, secondary raw materials, competitiveness, and production and consumption. And you can go on this website and check each country individually, and you can also check the 28 countries of the EU. And it's quite interesting when you see, because they show the trends, whether we're collecting, for example, this is one of the pages, whether we're collecting more or less waste, whether we're getting more plastic, less. It's really quite useful. There's not very much to say about the bioeconomy strategy in the UK, except that we do have a strategy. It was published in 2018, and it was published by the Department for Business, not the Department for the Environment. This is in the document. It set out what the UK thinks are the number of jobs and the GDP connected with the bioeconomy. So the Strategy Delivery Consortium are these people that we're seeing on the slide. And as you can see, it's very, very much focused on bioscience. Today, we're not going to be talking about bioscience as such, but the UK focus is more on bioscience. I want to very quickly talk about the EU Green Deal because, in the UK, we have a Green Deal, but it's not the same as the EU Green Deal. In the UK, the Green Deal is only about energy, and you can get some payments to insulate or heat or double glaze your house. And the UK government has a few consultations at the moment that pertain to the bioeconomy, but most of the important consultations really finished earlier last year, mainly on waste and on taxing single-use plastics and stuff like that. It's in the news today about single-use plastics being banned from today. DEFRA produced this Our Waste, Our Resources strategy, and they gave a timeline, and I must say they are actually sticking quite well to the timeline that they've given. So if you see some of the key milestones that are on this strategy, we have actually achieved quite a bit of this. So it'll be quite useful if you are in the UK to have a look at this. The EU bioeconomy strategy was updated in November 2018, and the EU Green Deal encompasses a lot of the things that it says there. And the Green Deal doesn't go as deep as a lot of us would want, but it really goes quite a long way. It has some very good targets, and the timing has really ramped up. So the European Commission presented the deal in December, and it's now 1st of October. And I can tell you that these areas that we're looking at here, these 8 areas, the climate ambition, energy, circular economy, construction, pollution, biodiversity, farm to fork, which is agriculture, and sustainable and smart mobility, plus the 2 horizontal areas of financing and leaving no one behind. These areas, if I go back quickly, all these strategies, which are pretty big, were presented by May, and the bits of legislation that they're going to have to change are in this slide here. So it's a very big area to encompass in one. You could do a talk about each aspect of this depending on where you're sitting. That's why bioeconomy is so difficult to get to grips. But for example, say we talk about transiting to a circular bioeconomy, there is a circular economy action plan. If you're thinking about energy, there's reviews of the energy legislation. So whichever area of the bioeconomy you are in at the moment, do have a look at the bit of legislation and regulation that affects your area. In the circular economy action plan, the sectors are quite wide. So whatever you're in, there's going to be something in it for you. Obviously, ensuring less waste is an overall theme. The biodiversity strategy affects some of the areas to do with agriculture, of course, but indigenous plants and replanting and understanding the decline, and making sure things like bees are quite important, and making sure that a lot of the insects and the birds don't continue deteriorating. This is the timeline for the Green Deal call. It opened on the 18th of September. If you want to know more detail, there is a website called EU R&I Days, and the deadline is on the 26th of January. These are the specific areas. So that's me. I think I've taken enough time. Thank you for listening. Hello. Can I go now to Josie?
Oh, hello.
Hello, Josie.
Launch my screen. Hello.
To you for
Thank you.
Talk.
That's me. Yeah, great. Right. So I will share my screen. I won't share my face. Right. Okay. Can we see that? Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Josie from insulated packaging company Woolcool, and I've been asked to come and talk to you guys around commercialization of and innovation in natural materials. Now, as may or may not be clear by our name, we use the biomaterial that is wool, a very, very old biomaterial that has been around for tens of thousands of years. Interesting fact about sheep, they are believed to go as far back as 10,000 BC. So quite an old material, but certainly one of the, in my view, one of the most amazing biomaterials there are out there in terms of its capabilities. I'll come to that a little bit later, but I thought I'd give you a quick introduction to Woolcool and what we do and why we do it. Woolcool as a company, as I was saying, produce insulated packaging for the shipment of food and pharmaceuticals. So many of you in this lockdown time may have received packages online, and hopefully some of you may have received our product. So it's used to ship foods such as cheese, dairy, cheeses and dairies, milks, meats, all sorts. I think we even have people sending out caviar, so that's quite exciting. So we are, as I say, founded in 2009. Our CEO discovered Woolcool on a packaging consultancy project with the National Trust, and basically the remit of Woolcool was to replace polystyrene, and that's kind of where it all started. I don't have enough time today to go through the whole story, otherwise you'll be here until tomorrow. So that's a very brief, short overview. As I was saying, founded in 2009, we are a family business, and our focus as a company is very much team-based. We've recently as well become a B Corp, and so that's around the idea of business as a force for good, and looking at people, planet and profit, so measuring your impact, and obviously linking to the bioeconomy, the bio materials. It's all about sustainability for us. It's all around using natural, sustainable materials. And actually, we do use plastic in some of our products, but it's about choosing the right material for the right application. So that's a very brief overview to Woolcool as a company. And as I say, we use wool. And this talk is around the commercialization of a natural material, and particularly of a biomaterial, or a material that probably is quite new in many ways, ironically, to a market, and how we built the credibility around that. So, you know, wool is an amazing material. So in terms of science, we have spent, we had £500,000 of grant funding from the government, which was match funding, which really allowed us to delve into how wool works as a material. So under the microscope, if you all have Google in front of you, you can Google wool fibre, and you can see under a microscope, actually, the way the wool's made up is actually really technical, and we really wanted to delve into the science, and that's where the fundamentals of our credibility came in, is around creating scientific data and finding, delving into the research behind how the wool actually works. Now, not only is wool a great insulator, it's also a great, it will absorb moisture. So in terms of shipping food, you might be using ice packs. So it'll actually absorb the moisture from the ice packs in shipment, so you don't get a soggy package at the end of it. And promotion of it as a biomaterial, actually, if you think about it, you never see a wet sheep, so you never see a sheep in a farm or in a field looking wet. And actually, the wool was created for the very purpose that we're using it for. So going back to the ethos of the same material, the right material for the right application, is that actually, our belief is that, taking a natural material, a simple material, a biomaterial, has one benefit of using a material that usually goes to waste right now because there's no other uses for the type of wool we use. It's using a material that at the end is biodegradable and compostable, and it's using a material for the application it's actually used for in nature. So we have those three major benefits, but in the early days, the challenge was around the credibility of that. So even though people know wool for being something that keeps things warm, when you're going into customers and saying keeping things cold, that's quite an alien concept until they think about it. And actually, from that point of view, we had to build that credibility, and that's where the scientific data was really important for us. The other challenges that then come is around, people poaching ideas. So whether that's they take the idea and think it's easy to do. So although I say it's a very simple concept, there's loads of science behind it. So it's being aware of, and that leads on to trusted partners. When we were building the company, it was around picking our partners really carefully to those ones that we could trust to buy into the idea, support us, rather than the ones that were in it for the money and the capital and to poach the idea. So that's really key as a challenge. And we were started in a recession. So people look at what's going on today and say, obviously how bad it is that all these businesses are really, really struggling. But out of the struggle and the pain and the recession actually can come really great innovation. And so they were our challenges. And I just wanted to talk through how we kind of face those challenges. And I because I only have 10 minutes or so to talk, is I wanted to talk around the 3 major things that we did in order to kind of get that credibility of a material that really is seen as a fluffy, as a biomaterial. It's a bit hippie. It's probably people sitting around smoking cannabis and wearing floaty skirts. That's kind of the perception of wool. So I think from this side, I think we wanted to really, as I was saying, start off. We're scientific, we're data based, no smoke and mirrors, everything clear, and really build from that. So really get to the bottom of that. And knowing our product inside out is really key. When I go and sit in front of the pharmaceuticals such as AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, they hold no punches. They will want to know that I know about the product, because we're going in to replace something that they trust. So we need to answer more questions. We need to have all the data, all the evidence from the start, and be able to answer any questions that come back. The second thing actually is kind of the opposite to scientific, which is more fluffy side, the marketing and the image. We really, from the very, very beginning, we wanted to build a brand that was recognizable, that was strong, that was professional, and made us appear the bigger than we are. The biggest challenge with any bio company is getting buy-in from some of the brands out there that might take you to the next level. And to do that, you need to appear as a professional company, and a company that, again, isn't fluffy in a cottage, sat in a cottage, and kind of singing Kumbaya. That's that's a perception, but actually we wanted to create, we're the same as those traditional plastic companies, but we're not a traditional plastic company. We are a new material, a biomaterial, a material that's sustainable, and by the way, we can also be high performing and professional, and that's kind of what we try to build with our website and with our brand. And then, as I was talking about partnering, is what's been really key for us is ensuring that those partners we work with, we're building that trust. And what that also lended to was building the credibility, because it meant that the partners we chose to work with, so the first company we worked with was Abel & Cole. So they have enough reach within the sector we're in to basically allow us to go into other companies and say, oh, by the way, we work with Abel & Cole. And then they go, oh, okay, we know them. That, we must, you must work, or you must be something that can actually supply not just into, as a lifestyle business, or not just into a small farm in the middle of nowhere. You can actually supply into corporate commercial world. And we also did that within the pharmaceutical. So I've only really focused on the food application, but actually Woolcool is also used for the shipment of pharmaceuticals. And again, that's where the scientific side comes in, but also the partnering is that we're currently working with a couple now, but in the very early days worked with a number of kind of top pharmaceutical companies that allowed us to then develop our product with them. So kind of in summary, the 3 main points really are a strong scientific base to what we were doing, and making sure we know our product, a marketing image that was bigger than we were, and partnering with trusted but companies that could kind of bolster that credibility, but also to give us reach to other companies off the back of that. And essentially what that did from a biomaterial point of view is it took us out from a small company mentality to actually being something that's mainstream, commercial, and trusted within the market, versus whatever the status quo was. So I think that might be the end. So I think that's just on time. So thank you so much for listening. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask, and I will now stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Josie. That was really interesting.
No worries.
I cannot see that anybody's asked any questions yet, but I
probably answered them
have
all.
heard, audience, please do write any questions you might have in the Q&A. I was going to ask you, Josie, I've heard you are working on some new products as well.
Right.
When
Yeah.
are they due?
So we have a couple of, so we have our obviously traditional products, which is a wool liners in a box. And then we have a couple of other routes that we are currently looking at, including bigger deliveries and also different sectors that the wool can be used in. So say horticulture is one route. And so we're looking probably, unfortunately, coronavirus put a bit of a pause on some of those developments, not necessarily the development of them, but the launch of them. So we're probably looking into what would it be? January, February next year, I think, is what we're looking at. I was trying to think where we were now. This year's gone so quickly.
Brilliant. And you didn't mention as such the use of your product for pharmaceutical and for veterinary use. You mainly mentioned food, but can be used.
Yeah, it can be used. So it can be used in both pharmaceutical, food and pharmaceutical sector. We have a number of online pharmacies that users. We work with a number of the bigger pharma. I think you call them big pharma, so sending IV bags, sending vaccinations, sending cancer treatments. So there's all sorts that it can do. It's a replacement for EPS and polystyrene. So if you're shipping food or pharmaceutical and it needs to be kept at a certain temperature range, it's perfect for that, as it does the same with the sheep. I think there's a question.
Josie, we've got a question to you from Kahina. She's asking, is it pure wool or is it also coated to reach the needed properties?
So the wool element, so there's almost two elements. There's a wool liner, which is 100% pure wool, no coating. A lot of building insulation, wool for building insulation tends to be a polyester wool mix. We didn't want to do that, so we went out of our way. To find a supplier and find a supply chain that could be 100% pure wool. So the wool element, and then it's got a plastic outer bag basically. So the wool is basically wool goes into a bag. So it's like that. And in fact, I have one here. So the wool goes into a bag. Now the outer bag is actually currently an MDPE simple plastic. I think Andy Sweetman's just put a question on saying, can you find a way to get it to 100% biomaterial? What wouldn't it need? So the wool is 100% biomaterial. The outer bag, we are working on looking at bioplastics, different types of materials, whether it's bioplastic paper, to eliminate the outer bag at the moment. And there are loads of things out there, but at the moment we haven't yet found something that can do the job we need it to do. That's not to say we won't. We are always looking, and watch this space for 2021.
Right. There are a couple of questions about the sourcing of the wool.
Yeah.
People are asking you to say where you source the wool, and that there's lots of sheep in the UK and Scotland. Where do you source your wool?
So the wool comes from sheep, and as you pointed out, so it comes from a mixture. So it's a UK European wool mix. So we have a good chunk of UK wool within there, and then we have some European wool in there too, for a couple of reasons. One is the main reason really is continuity of supply. If something happens to all the sheep in the UK, we've got a supply chain. It is all washed and scoured in the UK, and we do work with the British Wool Marketing Board. And we are, in the future, I'd love to get to a point where we could have our own little cooperative of farmers. At the moment, logistics won't work because of how many sheep farmers are on how many sheep. But actually, that's the dream almost, to have our own Woolcool farms that we can, harness the wool from. So yeah, that's the goal.
One last question, Josie.
Sure.
Somebody's asking about packaging wet food products like fish or shellfish.
So we actually have a couple of companies doing that. whilst our product isn't perfect for sending, say, wet fish within, so it would keep it chilled, so it'll be absolutely fine temperature wise, but because of the way our packaging is made, you would probably need to have some barrier between the ice, if it's kind of a loose ice, and the wool liner, but it certainly can be done. We do have a couple of companies who've done that.
Right, it's 12:30, so thank you, Josie, for answering the questions.
No worries.
Audience, if you have any more questions, please pop them in the Q&A, and then we can discuss them after everybody's spoken. Thanks, Josie. Can I go to you, Em?
No worries. Thank you, everyone.
Can I go to you, Em?
Yep, certainly.
So can you share?
Let me just share my screen.
Yes, thank you. And you can start. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, let me just put that in presentation mode. Yep, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Em Mendoza, and I'm from a company called Ananas Anam, and we produce a material called Piñatex. So what is Piñatex? So actually, Piñatex is a natural, sustainable, non-woven material made from pineapple leaf fibers that are actually waste products from the agriculture industry. And we work towards the values of a circular economy. So our vision as a company is to meet the challenges of our times by developing products in which commercial success is integrated with and promotes social, cultural, and ecological development. And for us, our purpose as well is to reconnect and heal the relationship we have between us humans and the Mother Earth. So for us, really, what we're doing is trying to create an alternative material that you can use as a replacement for leather or any synthetic material. So for right now, what we're doing is we're focusing on the fashion industry so that we can provide an option or a choice for the clients or for the consumers to be able to have that better choice in terms of like clothing or accessories or anything that they can actually think about. So for right now, as I said, like for now, we're mainly focused on addressing a waste problem within the fashion industry. So the fashion industry is the second most polluting industry in the world, next to oil and gas. And it is actually projected that by 2030, 62% of the fashion industry waste will increase. And this poses like a very big problem because like for right now, like our environment is really, has a lot of stress put towards to it already. And based from the research from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, there's actually one garbage truck of textiles that is landfilled or incinerated every second. So just imagine how big of a problem this is, especially for the third world countries wherein, countries like Bangladesh and Cambodia, wherein they're really struggling with fashion waste like this. So what we're doing is we're giving a solution to the brands that we work with. So we're creating this innovative, responsible solution because what we're using is actually the waste product of the agriculture industry. So just a little bit of trivia, there's actually 13 million tons of least waste that comes from pineapple farming annually. So we don't use the actual fruit, but we use the leaves that surround the plant to create our material. So what makes Piñatex different, or what makes it special, is actually our fiber procurement. So we source the leaves from the Philippines. So we work with local farming cooperatives, and we work with them actually because we would want to eliminate the middleman so that we're able to help fully the farmers that we work with. So these are the actual leaves that we use. So these leaves, after the pineapples are harvested, the farmers either just throw it away or leave it on the ground to rot, or burn it, which is much more harmful for the environment. So for us, we enable these farmers to actually develop a new skill wherein not only are they farming, but they're actually doing the extraction of the fibers, and that enables them to earn a second stream income that provides for a better lifestyle for their families. Because in between harvests of the pineapples, they actually don't earn anything. So at least with this, not only are they developing a new skill, which empowers them, but also enables them to earn this additional income that they can provide for their family. So after the extraction of the fibers, we just hang it up in the farm to dry. So meaning we don't use any chemicals or any other restricted substances to dry the material. We actually just use the sun to naturally bleach the fibers, so that we can have that whiter color. Yes. So after the fiber extraction, actually, the biomass, that is the green parts of the leaf, becomes the biomass that we can reuse as fertilizers when the farmers replant the crops. So it's a really full circular economy for us, because even the waste of the fiber extraction we can reuse and put it back to the earth, so that the farmers don't need to buy any other fertilizers or any other composts to replant the crops. So that's the good thing. And then from there, we actually combine the pineapple leaf fibers with PLA, which is polylactic acid derived from corn normally. So it is a mechanical process that we use so that we can create a non-woven substrate as base of Piñatex. And then after that, we just do another layer of the material. So we just coat it and finish it. So everything happens in the Philippines until the non-woven substrate, and then we ship it on to Spain, where it is finished. So after the substrate is colored and pigmented, then it actually becomes the finished product, which is what we call Piñatex. And for us, we also don't use dyes, because dyes use a lot of water in its production. So instead, we use GOT certified pigments, so that that enables us to save resources and the use of any volatile substances or solvents. So this is just a visual representation of the whole supply chain that we have in Ananas Anam. So it's basically just showing everything that I have said in the past like 2 to 3 minutes. So yeah, so it's really like our supply chain is based on the philosophy of a circular economy. So to talk about Piñatex, really, so from our name, piña is actually the Filipino term for pineapples, and tex is just short for textile, so it's pineapple textile. That's what Piñatex means. And it has a wide range of B2B market applications. So for right now, a lot of the clients that we work with are into fashion. So it's mostly shoes and handbags application. We're moving into apparel as well, upholstery and automotive industry. And for now, we have 10 colors in our original range. So we can start from like the natural color, which is our most popular one, because it really shows like the properties and how the fibers actually look like. And yeah, so it enables our clients as well to be able to choose from the collection that we have that suits their image and their brand look as well. And then we have the mineral range as well, which is an elevation to what the original. So we use the mineral pigments in this collection, which makes the material actually stronger than the original range. And just to give you an idea of the customization options that we have, so we can actually emboss, do direct coating, you can do embroidery on it as well, and transfer coating, so to give a different look and feel to the original collection. And this is just showing you some of the products that have used Piñatex. So here we can see it being used as a boot, shoes, skirts and jackets, ear bags, and then you can see chairs and stools, and even cushions upholstered in Piñatex. And then this is something that we would want to work with this year and towards the next year as well, is for it to be fully used in the automotive industry. So for right now, this is just a prototype, just to show people that it can actually work. And we are very lucky to have worked with a lot of very nice brands as well. So we have worked with Hugo Boss in their first sustainable and vegan shoe. We have worked with the Hilton Hotel, wherein they created the first vegan suite. And then last year, we had a collaboration with H&M in their Conscious exclusive collection. So yeah, so that's Piñatex for you. I hope I was able to like let you know who we are, what we do, and what we're doing to help the environment and the communities that we work with. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Em. That was a very nicely presented talk. We've got some questions for you already. So
Yep.
if you want to share your screen, I will tell you.
I'm gonna.
So
yep.
Is Piñatex waterproof?
It is not waterproof, but it's water resistant. So we don't recommend people to actually submerge it into water. You can just put like cloth and wipe it with a wet cloth and a light soapy water, and then that's basically how you clean it.
And is the finished article biodegradable?
For right now, it's 90% biodegradable. We're working on making it fully biodegradable, and we're working with a very nice company that's based in the Netherlands who will create for us, or I mean, who alongside us will create this bio-based resin that we can use. But for right now, the available technology out there is still not strong enough for us to use to make it a fully biodegradable material. But we're going to get there.
And we've also got a question about the production size that you can handle in the Philippines. I know that pineapples are grown all over the world, but you're starting in the Philippines, aren't you?
Yes, we started in the Philippines only because in the Philippines, they already use the pineapple fiber to, in their traditional clothes. So we are elevating the already existing use for the pineapple fiber, and also because the Philippines is actually the second biggest producer of pineapples. So it's just logical for us to get it from there. But of course, we're trying to look for other sources of pineapple. And we're looking at Costa Rica, which is the biggest producer in the world. And I guess that would be something that we are working on for the next year, so that we can divide our supply chain. The Costa Rica supply chain will be able to provide for like the Americas and Europe, and then the Philippine supply chain can be able to provide for the Asian and Australian market, even like the Middle East even. So yeah.
Right, I'm going to ask you one last question and then we'll go on to our next speaker. So here we're talking about, Zita's asking, are the colorants you are using natural ones?
So what we use are GOT certified pigments. So these pigments are certified organic and sustainable. It's mostly derived from natural materials. So yes, so that's good. So, and our material is also REACH compliant. So it just goes to show that there's no volatile substances or any restricted chemicals that are used in the material.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think there are a few more questions, but we'll discuss them at the end of the session. So Paul, could we please ask you to share your screen and start
Yes,
the talk?
I will try and share my screen now. So let's have a look. So can you see that?
Yes, thank you, Paul. Could you start?
Yeah, I will start now. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Tini from Fuchs Lubricants. I'll be talking to you today about our Planto range of products. So if that's moved across and everybody can see it, I'll give you a quick introduction to our company, because we might be a company that you guys have not heard of before. I'll be touching on some simple ester chemistry, okay? So we can't give too much away today because we've only got a short period of time to talk about these products. But what I will be focusing on as well is two typical Planto products to show you the advantages. So the advantages are both physical advantages, performance advantages, as well as an overall total cost of ownership. So these products might appear to be more expensive to the end user, but they perform better and they perform for longer. Okay, so Fuchs at a glass. Okay, we were established 3 generations ago with the #1 independent supplier of lubricants globally. We're still a family business. You can see that we've got more than 5,000 employees. We're a large company, 2.6 billion in sales. But the important thing is we've got 58 companies worldwide. We've got multiple manufacturing sites. And the important thing is we've got a range of over 10,000 lubricants and lubricant specialties. Okay, so we're a full range supplier. If you have a look at what we supply, the sectors in which we supply, there's a lot, okay? Every sector's covered, from mechanical engineering through to the food industry, agriculture, forestry, oil and gas, metalworking, forging. There's countless sectors on there. But the important thing is all have applications that could use rapidly biodegradable or environmentally acceptable lubricants. Okay, so it's not really down to a certain product sector where we can supply our products. It's every sector now. Okay, looking at our 6 product categories, these will be the same for most lubricant providers. There's the automotive, there's the general industry, lubricating greases, metal processing, special applications. As I say, all of these sectors could use the correct rapidly biodegradable lubricant. Okay, lubrication basics. Let's just go back to page 1. What's a lubricant designed to do? Okay, it's designed to give you less wear, corrosion protection. We want, basically, when we design a lubricant, to be a fully formulated product that's going to offer the best in terms of performance. We want a product that's actually going to reduce consumption as well. It's got to cope with high thermal loads. Obviously, we're talking about reducing friction, but if we can reduce friction as well as reducing CO2 and generate a product that's rapidly biodegradable, the end user has got extra efficiencies as well. Okay, sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, we are talking about raw materials. We're not just talking about crude products now from traditional lubrication. We're talking about getting products from different sustainable sources. Okay, we've got new synthesis paths. Okay, we're not talking about any additives that are reliant on mineral oil. Okay, the end user will be reducing their carbon footprint, and the whole goal is to be environmentally acceptable. Okay, so I'll touch on ester chemistry. Okay, and underneath you can see the subheading technology that pays back. Okay, Ester chemistry. We source our esters from various renewable sources, but they include things like sunflower, rapeseed, vegetable origin, soya, coconut and palm. Okay, so these could be classed as our initial building blocks for a fully formulated lubricant. Okay, ester chemistry for lubrication. As I say, this is quite a simple equation. We won't go into too much detail given the time, but basically we're talking about a fatty acid. This is a carboxylic acid group that's here. We react those with an alcohol. So this fatty acid has come from our renewable source. Okay, it goes through a process involving a catalyst. We then get this new functional group and water as a byproduct. This functional group is now part of our lubrication building block. Okay, so these are the simple esters that have been generated through renewable resources. Okay, as a lubricant in their own right, they've got some excellent advantages straight away in this raw state. Okay, they suffer from low evaporation losses. They usually have a high flash point, even with a relatively low viscosity. Lubricity is generally excellent. Corrosion protection is good because these products are very polar. Through extra synthesis and through extra steps, you can actually refine something even more to give you some absolutely fantastic advantages in terms of load carrying ability and lower emissions. Okay, we can always complement them with additional chemistry, but in their own right, they're very good lubricants. Okay, again, quickly on this slide, we talk about saturation. Okay, so that is essentially unsaturated. Okay, so it's an unsaturated chain. If you've got lots of unsaturated chains in the final formulated product, you're going to be sacrificing some longevity. You're going to be sacrificing some oxidation stability. Okay, you could be increasing acidity. So basically what we want is, as a lubricant manufacturer and provider, we want saturated chains. Okay, so we're actually going to be resistant to oxidation, offering the customer the best lubricity and for the longest period of time. Okay, all of our Planto lubricants are all tested in accordance to the OECD guidelines. If we move on to the range, okay, we've got a full catalogue. We've got almost 100 products in our product portfolio, which are Planto origin. But Planto, in terms of performance, what do we want? Okay, as a lubricant designer, we want basically the best performance for the most reasonable cost. Okay, we want that best cost performance ratio. If we focus on biodegradability, minimum toxicity, reduction of CO2, fuel saving, increased efficiency, all of these things are generally coming at a higher cost. They might come at a higher cost, but in terms of performance, they've got excellent advantages out in the real world. Okay, if we have a look at our Planto industrial overview, I've mentioned general industrial products. Okay, there's hydraulic oils, there's compressor oils, industrial gear oils, there's metalworking fluids. Okay, if we have a look at Plantahyde S as one example, this is a biodegradable hydraulic oil. Okay, it's based on a synthetic ester. So this synthetic ester has been tested in accordance to the OECD guidelines, and it's over 60% biodegradable. If we have a look at the applications where this is currently used, we're looking in, yes, agriculture. One of the best examples was the Eden project in the UK. We've been supplying those types of materials to the Eden project for the past 20 or so years. Okay, so we're giving excellent long-term performance with that reassurance of biodegradability and having the eco label. Now, I've mentioned performance, but let's just see how this works. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the lubricants industry, we've got various sets of tests where we pitch ourselves, and there are various performance criteria with which designers and engineers tend to focus on. I've highlighted two here. Okay, if we have a look at the viscosity index versus the biodegradability, okay, the viscosity index is basically talking about the viscosity temperature behavior. Okay, so if we're talking about a hydraulic system that needs to operate at a very low temperature, we're going to be asking the viscosity temperature behavior to actually be biased towards excellent flow at low temperatures, which means we need a very high viscosity index. You can see on here that we've got a high viscosity index on the HEES ester. Okay, Plantarhide S documentation. I can go through this. I know I've only got 1 minute left, but this is another example of a gear oil. Okay, a plantar gear S with a very high VI. Okay, when it's been in use, it went on top of a mineral-based lubricant. Okay, so a traditional mineral oil. Okay, with all of the additives associated with that fully formulated product to resist oxidation. We cleaned the gearbox, we then filled it with Plantar 320S, and that's the same gearbox. So it's got the self-cleaning ability, it's got better longevity, better long-term performance. Okay, so there are performance characteristics and advantages to have with these. If we have a look at this slide, which is an old slide, I put this on for Iris because this goes back to when Cliff Lee was with our company. There's only one genuine source of biodegradable raw material for us in terms of the Planto range, and that's ester technology. Okay, and what I can do is just very quickly, I've got a UK case study that we did here. So what do we want to achieve for a case study? We focused on energy saving lubricants. Okay, different drive systems, different gears. There are these advantages to be gained by picking the correct product. But in our study, I'll just finish off here. We've got cost savings. Okay, so we've moved from a traditional mineral oil going to a plant ester based product, and we've got cost savings of up to 2.5% on energy. And if you have a look at the size of the system which we were using, that can turn into thousands of pounds per year. And that is it for me. Sorry for overrunning.
No, not for long. Thank you so much. Yes, my old friend. We have a couple of questions for you, Paul. Maybe you can share your screen. So Rob is asking you, what's your market? What is the market share of Planto?
The market share of Planto, I've got the figures for the UK. We're actually very low. I'll be honest with you, we're very low. But we're making new ground, because to shift traditional applications, that's why I put that case study up there, to shift from the traditional good performance, relatively low cost products, to see that cost step change for a lot of the end users. They see that as being too prohibitive. Okay, by building the case studies, we're actually gaining more business that way. We're probably in single digits percentage wise on Planto, I'll be honest with you, in the UK, but we've got to start somewhere, because the overall cost of ownership, when you switch from these products, you've got the energy saving aspect, you've got the biodegradability. That end user that went along with our case study was really focusing on their 14001 accreditation. So they were up for this change. So hopefully we'll gain more momentum moving forward and gain more business.
Yeah, and I think the new Green Deal, the new EU Green Deal, is going to ban a lot of stuff. So
it will.
Yes, and you'll be doing well. The other question was, what's your source of alcohol? Polly was asking.
The alcohol, in what way? Because we use the alcohols that we use for those reactions are actually carried out off-site. We don't carry out these reactions. Alcohol could be a good intermediate product. As a lubricant on its own, it depends on which alcohol we're talking about, because a lot of the products, alcohol-wise, could be used in other lubricants, things which are called vanishing lubricants. So basically, you're replacing a traditional solvent with maybe an alcohol. So you could have a look at maybe ethanol or something like that to get something with a relatively good rate of evaporation, but it's come from a renewable resource. So there is scope for those type of products as well.
So one last question for you, and then we'll open up to the whole panel. what is the price difference then? You know, you were talking about your market share. What is the price difference? I mean, obviously you have better functionality.
Yeah, it totally depends on which product that we're talking about, but it can be up to threefold. Okay, it can be up to threefold per litre. Okay, it could even be more on some specialist products. So people, what we have to overcome as chemists, engineers, and I'd say passionate people, is to get rid of that barrier. Somebody will turn around and say they can see today's cost, but they can't actually see the value. Okay, the value will come later. Having that cost increase initially will easily pay for itself in the long run. It's just gaining momentum, building case studies, and slowly trying to turn everybody towards renewables. So it's a slow process, but we're getting there.
Well, I completely agree. I would like to ask Em and Josie to show us that, because now we're open. So people, could you ask any other questions to the panel or to myself if you had any questions about the sort of the regulatory side?
Paul, could I ask you a question? When you talk about the price differential, of course, we never take into account the huge subsidies which non-renewable sources enjoy. You know, so the fossil fuel industry enjoys phenomenal amounts of subsidies and tax breaks. Presumably, you don't get any of those. So the price difference is actually artificial, because we are making your materials uncompetitive by using our taxpayers' money to make oil-based, petrol-based materials more competitive. And this is a problem I think we have across the whole bio and renewable sector.
It is as well. And what I will say about our company is we are pretty forward thinking, because we've been pushing the Planto range for a number of years now. But even in our facility here at Stoke-on-Trent, we've got solar panels on top of our warehouse, which can account for up to 15% of our energy demand. And it's little things like that, because to have an MD that's that forward thinking, it's actually trying to persuade the customers and the end users of the benefits and the investment that we're putting in now, because we're trying to plan for tomorrow. Because the mineral sources, when you have a look at Group 1 base oils, the refineries, internal combustion engine, things are going to be moving. We need other lubricants from other sources.
Can I just intervene now? We've had a question about, to all the panel, I suppose, what strategies can we adopt to realize the value of the additional functionality in lubes to packaging materials? Is there a plus for packaging materials by using your?
Our packaging is got more than 40% recycled material, the ones that are held in plastic. Of course, the drummed material are in steel drums, which can be recycled. So we've also got innovative packaging solutions, which are lightweight, low plastic for small packs. So as opposed to having a rigid 5-litre container, we've actually got a recyclable, over 98% recyclable cardboard outer and a plastic inner. Okay, so it's all basically like a bag in a box. Okay, so we call them the lube cube. They're available in 5 litres and 20 litres. So we've got that side. That's today. Moving forward, there's going to be advances in packaging, but for me, that's outside of me to comment on, because I can do the chemistry side. The packaging will be down to somebody else. But we're starting.
I think Rob was meaning, that was very interesting to know. I think he was meaning, should we be using the lubes or any of your products in some way to create packaging that is more functional? I think
definitely. If you've got forming processes and things like that, vacuum forming processes, I mentioned there's compressor oils, there's Planto hydraulic oils, gear oils. Okay, some of the special lubricants that we've got, which go into packaging manufacture. What about all of the conveyor systems that you've got? Okay, you can go on Planto greases. You can have a Planto line to complement all of the renewable packaging that you're doing.
Thanks, Paul. Josie, there was another question for you. which was about, do you recycle or compost the packaging that you produce?
Yeah, sure. I'd also like to say I source my alcohol from M&S for Polly's question. Yeah, I mean, the wool element is obviously compostable, biodegradable. So 98%, depending on the product, but 95 to 98% of the product, once you take it out of the bag, all of the inside is compostable, versus competitors, other options on the market are using kind of polyester based materials. So first and foremost, if you remove the plastic bag, the wool element is completely compostable. The bag's recyclable in the right chain. Let's say, David, I know you know, recycling chains are the challenge when it comes to any recycling. We do have a return scheme now. So for those of you who want to check, woolcool.com/pioneers, that talks about how our customer's customer, so the end user, can send the wool back to us to be reprocessed. The plastic goes into our plastic recycling chain, which goes into bin bags. The wool goes back to be washed and scoured and made into new Woolcools. And then generally we encourage reuse in the home. I touched upon horticulture earlier, but you can use wool in your garden, hanging baskets, pet bedding, pipe lagging. There's all sorts people use it for. And our social media is full of cat pictures. And we had a hamster picture the other day of a hamster with a little wool bedding. So, you know, these biomaterials can be used for other applications at the end. So the compostability is great, but where else can we use them? Cushion bedding, whatever, you know, it's kind of endless.
Lovely. Actually, because we only had 3 speakers, I wanted to mention construction and construction materials, bio-based materials used for construction, because there's a big push on those as well. So hemp, wood, straw, and any other that you can think of. Are there any other questions from the audience before we continue? And I know it's 6 minutes over the hour, but we have a little bit of time if you have any more questions. What do you think, David? Shall we talk about?
Well, I know Em has to leave us, and I have to leave us, and have to leave you too. So I would draw a conclusion. I mean, let me just say, Iris, thank you to you for chairing it and keeping everybody to time and giving us that introduction. And thank you to Paul, to Em, and to Josie for speaking about their companies. And it's really nice to see that biomaterials are not just about bioplastics. There's a whole other world going on out there with many, many different uses and compliments to everybody. I would close and leave you last words, Iris, just to say that on your chat, on your Q&A, I think on the Q&A or on the chat button, you will see a link to our next webinar, which will be on the 13th of October. We'll be breaking the plastic wave report from the Pew Charitable Trust. We'll be exploring that with them. So please join us then. And thank you all, and over to you, Iris, to close.
Right, so thanks everybody. Of course, the BBIA has only been going since 2015, but a lot of us have been working in the bioeconomy even earlier, and I know that David's been working in the bioeconomy earlier than that. I think things can only get better, and there are more and more products. I was going to say to you that EFIB, which is the European Forum on Industrial Biotechnology, is a big conference from the 5th to the 9th of October, and BioLadies is going to be doing a slot on the Monday. So if you want to know about more biomaterials, please join us there. And of course, there are on the BBIA website, all the events are listed there, and you can go to the link there. So thank you everybody for joining us, and hope to see you at the next one. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Paul.